We all feel it. That slow, silent ache as something familiar begins to disappear. The friend who no longer calls. The apartment you once loved, now emptied out and echoing. The season's changing and suddenly you're a year older, but it feels like no time passed, and somehow too much time did. Impermanence isn't just an idea. It's what we live, moment by moment, and it hurts. We rarely name it that way. Instead, we feel it in waves, as heartbreak, as nostalgia, as the disorientation of a life that no longer fits. Sometimes it's subtle, the pang when you hear a song that once meant everything. Sometimes it's sharp, like watching someone you love fade away piece by piece, or noticing how your own body no longer moves the way it once did. The illness that caught you by surprise, the diagnosis that changed everything, the mirror that reflects not who you were, but who you're becoming, and don't yet know how to love. Health, too, is impermanent. No matter how well we eat, how hard we try to hold on, our cells age, our energy wanes, our certainty unravels. And for many, this is where the pain hits hardest, when the body becomes a reminder of time's direction, of what we will one day lose. And always beneath it all is the fear of death. Not just the death of our bodies, but the death of what we built, the death of meaning. The fear that nothing lasts long enough to be real, that we will be forgotten, that everything we loved will one day vanish and take us with it, that maybe it was never really ours to begin with. This is the pain of impermanence. It shows up in grief, in aging, in goodbyes, but also in joy. Because even joy hurts when we know it can't stay. We try to stop time, with photos, with rituals, with plans. We try to preserve what's precious, but everything is moving, everything is flowing. And in that movement, something inside us breaks, or is forced to open. But what if this isn't a curse? What if the ache of impermanence is not here to punish us, but to wake us up, to teach us how to love deeper, because we can't hold on, to teach us how to be here now, because there's no guarantee of tomorrow, to show us that beauty is beauty because it disappears. Maybe the reason it all slips through our hands is not because life is cruel, but because it's sacred. Let's explore the pain of impermanence, and the possibility it might hold something more than sorrow. Let's begin. If you've ever felt like everything is shifting beneath your feet, you're not imagining it, because it is. Let's begin with a basic fact. You are never in the same place twice. Even if you stood perfectly still, not breathing, not blinking, you'd still be moving. Because the Earth is spinning on its axis at about 1,600 kilometers per hour, it's also orbiting the Sun at 107,000 kilometers per hour. The Sun itself is orbiting the center of the Milky Way galaxy at 828,000 kilometers per hour. And the galaxy? It's moving through the universe at over 2 million kilometers per hour toward an unknown point scientists call the Great Attractor. So where are you? Nowhere fixed. Ever. Every second of your life is spent hurtling through space. Unknowingly, but unavoidably. We are travelers through the cosmos, and we never stay still. Zoom in, and the story becomes even more astonishing. What we call matter, this chair, your body, a mountain, is mostly empty space. Atoms are made of particles, but those particles are not static little marbles. They are vibrating waveforms, fluctuations in invisible quantum fields. The electrons in your body don't orbit like planets. They exist in clouds of probability, never truly here or there, but always in motion. The quarks inside protons are constantly exchanging gluons, flickering, reshuffling, decaying. Even in absolute zero, the coldest theoretical temperature, there's still what's called zero-point energy, a jittering background hum to the universe. In other words, stillness is an illusion. At every level, from galaxies to electrons, the universe is trembling with change. Even your thoughts aren't fixed. The brain is a living, evolving structure. Every experience, every memory, every emotion leaves a physical imprint, new connections, new firings, new chemical pathways. This is called neuroplasticity. Your brain is not a machine. It's a river, a storm. It remakes itself in response to your life. You don't just go through time. Time goes through you. That's why grief feels like it changes your very body, because it does. That's why love makes you glow, because it alters your biochemistry, your posture, your hormones, your brainwaves. You are not who you were yesterday, and you will not be who you are tomorrow. Now let's talk about time and the great law that governs its flow. The second law of thermodynamics tells us that entropy, the measure of disorder, always increases. That means hot things cool down, order breaks apart, systems drift toward chaos unless energy is constantly applied.
This is why buildings collapse, why stars burn out, why memories fade. Entropy is why everything ages. From your favorite sweater to the sun itself, everything is in the process of dissolving.
This isn't a pessimistic idea, it's a law of nature. And it's what gives time direction, a reason we remember the past but not the future. Even the universe isn't permanent. Scientists once believed the cosmos was eternal, but now we know it had a beginning, the Big Bang, nearly 14 billion years ago. And now, it's expanding faster and faster, theoretically driven by something mysterious called dark energy. Galaxies are drifting apart. The night sky is thinning. Eventually, stars will die, black holes will evaporate, and what remains may be silence. Some theories suggest the universe could end in a big freeze, infinite stillness. Others propose a big rip, where even atoms are torn apart, or a big crunch, where everything collapses back into a single point. Even the universe is in a cycle of birth and death, of becoming and unbecoming. At the heart of string theory, one of the leading frameworks in physics, is the idea that everything is vibration. Tiny loops of energy vibrating at different frequencies give rise to all particles, all forces, all matter. In essence, reality is not made of things, it's made of movement. We are songs being sung by the universe. We are fluctuations in an endless field of motion. We are moments that think we are permanent. Science shows us what mystics have always whispered.
There is no such thing as stillness. There is no such thing as permanence.
Not in your body, not in your mind, not in your relationships, not even in the stars. We suffer because we forget this. We grieve because we love what changes. We fear because we cannot control time. But in understanding the nature of change, maybe, just maybe, we can stop resisting it and start living in rhythm with it. Science shows us that impermanence is woven into the fabric of reality. But long before physics named entropy or neuroplasticity, philosophers were asking, what does it mean to exist in a world that is always changing? What does it mean to be if everything we are is slipping away? One of the oldest philosophical voices to speak of impermanence was Heraclitus of Ephesus, who said, "You cannot step into the same river twice, because by the time you return, both you and the river have changed." To Heraclitus, change was not a flaw in the universe. It was the universe. All of existence is in a state of flux. We are beings made of becoming. And yet modern life often pulls us in the opposite direction. We chase stability, permanence, routines we can rely on. We fight change as if it's a failure. But for Heraclitus, resistance to change was resistance to reality itself. Plato, in contrast, tried to make peace with impermanence by imagining two worlds. The world of appearances, where things decay, change, die. And the world of forms, eternal truths, unchanging ideals, the perfect patterns behind everything. In this view, appearances fades, but beauty is eternal. People die, but soul persists. Everything in this world points to a deeper one, a place beyond time, beyond death. This is one way to cope with impermanence, by placing our faith not in what we see, but in what it reflects. The Stoic philosophers of ancient Greece and Rome also taught the discipline of impermanence. They practiced a kind of mental rehearsal called premeditatio malorum, imagining the loss of what they loved to prepare themselves emotionally. "You could leave life right now," wrote Marcus Aurelius. "Let that determine what you do say and think." For the Stoics, impermanence was not tragedy. It was clarity. Knowing that all things end made them more precious, more sacred, more vivid. What you love is mortal, but so is your pain. Nothing lasts. And that is both our grief and our grace. Existentialist philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre said, "You are nothing but the sum of your acts." In a world without fixed essence or eternal identity, we become who we are by how we choose. by how we respond to life and especially to loss. In Sartre's world, impermanence gives us freedom, but it also burdens us with responsibility. There's no cosmic permanence to save us. We are the meaning makers, and the moment is all we have. Mystic philosopher Simone Weil saw impermanence not as a curse, but a call to be present. Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. When we know that something won't last, a conversation, a kiss, a life, we're more likely to give it our full presence. Our attention becomes an act of love. In this way, impermanence becomes the reason to show up more fully, not less. Across all these traditions, from Heraclitus to the Buddha, from Plato to Sartre, one idea repeats in many voices. Impermanence is not optional, but our relationship to it is. We can fear it and close off. We can deny it and suffer. Or we can walk with it and let it teach us how to live. If impermanence is life's most difficult truth, then the world's spiritual traditions have been whispering to us about it for millennia, not to frighten us, but to prepare us for something deeper. Where philosophy ends in clarity, mysticism begins in surrender. Impermanence, anicca, is one of the central pillars of Buddhist understanding. In the Buddha's first sermon, it's not hidden, it's front and center. Everything that arises will pass away. This is not something to mourn, but to awaken through, because clinging to what changes is the very root of suffering, dukkha. The goal in Buddhism is not to escape impermanence, but to become free through it, by releasing attachment, by seeing through illusion, by realizing that the self we grieve for is not fixed either. In Zen, the cherry blossom is revered not despite its short bloom, but because of it. Only the moment knows the truth, they say. To resist the passing is to miss the beauty. In Hindu cosmology, impermanence is divine. The universe is not meant to be static. It is a dance, Lila, the cosmic play of creation, preservation, and destruction. Brahma creates, and Vishnu sustains, but Shiva dissolves. And this cycle repeats endlessly, not as punishment, but as rhythm. What we fear as loss, Hinduism sees as return, a wave going back into the ocean. Soul, Atman, is eternal, but its forms are transient. Thus, life becomes a chance to witness change, without becoming lost in it. To live with detachment, vairagya, is not coldness, but a radical kind of peace, where we engage the world fully, knowing it is sacred, even as it passes. Christianity speaks profoundly to the ache of impermanence, because at its core is a story of death and rebirth. Jesus weeps, Jesus dies, but in dying he is transformed, and in that, transformation becomes our path too. Do not store up treasures on earth, says Matthew's Gospel, where moth and rust destroy, but store up treasures in heaven. Here, the transient world is not dismissed, but used as a mirror to the eternal. Earthly things pass so that heavenly truth might be remembered. Even the sacraments, bread broken, wine poured, are rituals of transformation, reminding us that what is given up can become grace. In Sufism, the mystical branch of Islam, impermanence is the training ground of the soul. The Sufi path is about dying before you die, letting go of ego, identity, and illusions so that only divine presence remains. Try to learn to let what is simply be, writes Rumi. That is the path of the heart. The whirling dervishes spin to embody this truth, that even in motion, one can be still in the center. That change is not a storm to resist, but a dance to move through. In Kabbalah, the Jewish mystical tradition, the world we see, the physical, changing, impermanent world, is not dismissed, but it is understood as veiled. This world is known as Malkut, the lowest of the 10 Sephirot, or divine emanations. Malkut is the kingdom, the final filter through which divine light enters creation. It is the realm of matter, time, form, decay, everything we experience with our senses. But in Kabbalistic thought, Malkut is not the whole story. It is a projection, a world of reflections, like the moon reflecting the sun. It seems solid, but it only receives light. It does not generate it. This world, then, is an illusion of permanence. We grasp at forms, forgetting they are shadows. We mourn loss, forgetting we are glimpsing the echo of something deeper. Malkut represents both the pain of impermanence and the invitation within it to seek the source beyond the surface, to rise through the tree of life. And yet Kabbalah doesn't ask us to reject the physical world. Instead, it invites us to elevate it, to see the sparks of divinity within the impermanence. Malkut is sacred because it is the doorway. Because the world is fleeting, we are reminded to live meaningfully. Because beauty fades, we learn to see with holy eyes. In this framework, the very fact that life doesn't last is what gives it the urgency of sacred purpose. You cannot cling to this world forever, but you can transform your experience of it. You can gather the sparks of love, insight, creation, and return them to their divine source. In Kabbalah, impermanence isn't failure. It's the medium through which light returns home. Impermanence becomes undeniable when it enters the body, not as theory, not as metaphor, but as pain, as fatigue, as a diagnosis that changes the shape of your future. For some, it begins with aching joints or failing organs. For others, it's the quiet grief of watching someone you love fade slowly. A parent, a partner, a friend who was once full of vitality, now moving like a ghost through their own story. There is a special kind of suffering that comes when you realize that even your own body, the home you trusted, is subject to time. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, "Just as a man discards worn-out clothes and puts on new ones, so does the soul cast off the worn-out body and enter another." The body is sacred, a temple of the soul, but it is not the soul itself. In Ayurveda, the ancient healing tradition of India, illness is not only a physical imbalance, but a spiritual message, an invitation to realign with the flow of life, to listen to what has been ignored. Healing then becomes not just about curing, but about coming home to yourself, even if that home looks different now. Zoroastrianism, one of the world's oldest spiritual traditions, holds a profound view of death as transition and purification. The body is returned to nature, and the soul journeys through a bridge of judgment, crossing toward either illumination or darkness based on the life lived. But the key teaching is this: we are beings of light, and in death we are called to return to the source of that light. Illness, aging, and even moral struggle are seen not as punishment, but as part of the cosmic struggle between order and chaos, and the soul's effort to choose truth, asha, over illusion, druj. In Jewish mysticism, the body is a vessel, and vessels inevitably crack. But this isn't seen as failure. It's how divine light is released. The breaking of the vessels is a cosmic image of impermanence, and through illness, aging, even death, we are not losing ourselves, we are returning to the source. Our task in life is not to cling to the outer form, but to gather the light within and carry it home. Christianity doesn't deny the pain of illness or the fear of death. It meets it head-on, with the story of a God who suffered, died, and rose again. Though our outer self is wasting away, writes Paul, our inner self is being renewed day by day, 2 Corinthians 4:16. For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed in us, Romans 8:18. Death has been swallowed up in victory. Where, O death, is your victory? Where, O death, is your sting? 1 Corinthians 15:54-55. In this view, illness may touch the body, but it cannot touch the eternal soul. The Christian path is not one of escaping suffering, but finding hope beyond it, in resurrection, in eternity, in God's embrace. Even the broken body is not lost. It is redeemed. In Buddhism, the body is considered a temporary vehicle, beautiful in its function, but not the essence of who we are. When illness comes, Buddhist teachers often encourage us not to resist, but to observe, not as punishment, but as practice. Whatever is subject to arising, said the Buddha, is subject to ceasing. The pain is real, but clinging to how things used to be creates suffering. In that letting go, we find not despair, but an entry point into awareness. In Sikhism, the body is described as dust, but the Nayam, the divine name, is eternal. The body is dust and shall return to dust, says the Guru Granth Sahib, but the soul is a spark of the divine. Illness is seen as part of hukam, divine will, not to be rejected, but accepted with grace, while constantly chanting the Nam, remembering the eternal. The soul does not die. It returns, merges, flows back into the formless one, Waheguru. Sikhism encourages a deep spiritual readiness for death, not with fear, but with devotion. To die with the name of God on your lips is considered the highest blessing. If you are struggling with your health, if you are facing a diagnosis, if someone you love is fading before your eyes, you are not alone. Every tradition, from the Gita to the Gospel, from the Torah to the Granth, whispers this. This body is temporary, but your light is not. This pain is real, but it is not the end of your story. This decay is not death. It is return. Even in the deepest illness, you are more than what is changing. You are not your body. You are not your disease. You are not your losses. You are the witness, the soul, the breath of eternity in temporary form. Let your suffering speak, but don't let it define you. Everything you love will change. Everything you fear will pass. And everything you are is in motion. This is the truth of impermanence, and it hurts because we care, because we've loved, because we've tried to hold on in a world made entirely of waves. We grieve the loss of what we once had. We fear the fading of what we now hold, and yet nothing was ever meant to stay. Impermanence is not life's betrayal. It is life's teacher. Its way of gently, or sometimes violently, reminding us, let go. Let go of who you were. Let go of what could have been. Let go of the idea that things must remain the same to be meaningful. Letting go doesn't mean you didn't love. It means your love is big enough to release what is passing and still remain whole. You can't hold a sunset. You can't stop a flower from wilting. You can't freeze time. But you can be here, fully, while the light still touches your face, while the hands you love are still within reach, while your breath is still yours. This is the secret gift of impermanence. Because things end, they matter. Because we lose, we learn to love better. Because everything slips through our hands, we finally open our hearts. The Buddhists call it anicca. The Stoics call it clarity. The physicists call it entropy. The mystics call it mercy. Because what doesn't last can't control us forever. What changes can't own you. What leaves can't define you. And what you lose might just be what sets you free. When the old falls away, something new always emerges. When a leaf falls, the tree doesn't die. It makes space for what comes next. So if you are grieving, if you are aging, if you are letting go of something or someone you thought would always be there, breathe. You are not being punished. You are being asked to see, to soften, to shed, to make room, to learn the greatest lesson impermanence has to offer. That freedom is found in the letting go. Let this moment pass. Let your expectations die. Let the old identity dissolve. Let your hands unclench. And when they do, you may find they're free to reach for something far more real. You are not what slips away. You are what remains awake as it does. You are not your fear of loss. You are the presence learning how to love without needing to hold. Let go, not because you're giving up, but because you're growing. Let go, not because the story ends, but because a new one can finally begin. Let go. Because everything beautiful in this world was born from change. And maybe that includes you. If this video spoke to something in you, you're not alone. At Luminate, we explore the deeper layers of life, where science meets spirituality, and ancient wisdom helps us navigate modern pain. Subscribe to join this journey of awakening, reflection, and healing. Turn on notifications so you never miss a new insight. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters here. And if someone you know is walking through change, share this with them.